We finally have new information on PlayStation's new handheld, PlayStation Q, now known as the PlayStation Portal Remote Player. Probably just going to call it Portal for short for the most part. We got a whole lot of new details out today, along with some more information on their headsets. I'm going to focus more on the Portal, but there are aspects of the headset news that's really interesting that ties into that as well. There are things that we've learned about this handheld that actually make me a little more excited, and a couple things that really have me scratching my head why. Now, while as of right now we just have this news to go off of, I am planning on covering the Portal when it fully releases, so if you want to make sure not to miss out on any of that coverage, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. First, one positive I want to get out of the way right away, because this is something that honestly surprised me in a good way: price point. I was really hoping that this would come in at a pretty aggressively low price. There was a whole thing during the Activision Blizzard case with Xbox where Microsoft theorized it was going to be about $300, which a lot of people took and ran with as being, confirmation that was going to be the range. And no, they're actually selling it at $200, the same price as the PlayStation Edge controller, which, look, is still, I think, a bit of a steep price in the mind for a lot of people for something that is ultimately a remote play device, but it's a lot lower than other options on the market right now. That's lower than the G Cloud, that's lower than the Razer Edge. It's a very competitive price point in that field where, honestly, they've needed to have lower prices. Other cool things about this that does make it more unique compared to other remote play devices out there is that PlayStation has confirmed that it offers haptic feedback as well as adaptive triggers, features from the DualSense controller. This is something they talked about when they very first revealed it as PlayStation Q, because it keeps that kind of interesting additional feedback of the DualSense and brings that to this handheld experience, which is nice. The built-in display for the Portal is an 8-inch 1080p 60Hz display, which is a good size for handheld visibility. Obviously, maintaining 1080p, while that is going to be restricted a little bit by how it's going to look over remote play, should look nice and crisp at that size, and you're going to maintain that smooth frame rate. Where things get a little bit weirder with this device is some of the stuff that PlayStation themselves haven't really focused on, but we are seeing coming out of some side reports from hands-on impressions and things about the system. I think one of the more interesting kind of negative surprises is the fact that the device does not support Bluetooth at all. Now, the reasoning for this has to do with those pair of headsets that they also gave a lot more information about, but basically there is a new proprietary connection type that PlayStation is going to be using for audio, which they are calling PlayStation Link, and the Portal is going to be using just that and not Bluetooth. So if you want to use a wireless headset with the Portal, you have to buy one of these new PlayStation headsets. You cannot use any Bluetooth headset options you have around, which, look, based on what we're hearing about this proprietary connection where it's going to be offering things like lossless audio and low latency, yeah, that's definitely a preferable experience over using a Bluetooth connection where you might experience more latency or not as good of sound quality. But it's really weird that you just don't get that option at all. They're removing it entirely and forcing you to have to buy into their ecosystem if you want to have that kind of functionality. Another thing that's kind of odd is the Wi-Fi situation with this controller, because technically PlayStation Remote Play, when you're using it with, say, a phone, you don't have to use it over local Wi-Fi. You can do that, but you could also be at a different location for PS5, and as long as both things are connected to the internet, you can remote play. I've done that several times, playing games here at the office on my phone while PlayStation 5 is hooked up back at home. And the wording for the Portal seems to be implying that that is not the case for this handheld device. Instead, it is prioritizing being used for that kind of home network setup. Their specific examples are, is someone using the TV? Well, you can play in the Portal. Oh, do you just want to play in a different room? You can use the Portal. They keep using the term over Wi-Fi, and I have yet to see any hard clarification on if that means it needs to be in the same local network or if you could be at a different location connected to Wi-Fi still. Based on their wording, it sounds like it is the earlier, but I really hope and wish it would be the latter. I am obviously planning on covering this thing when it comes out. I'm gonna pick it up, so I will be testing that out right away when that happens. But for now, as far as I've been able to see, that's been kind of this weird, not fully clarified point. Something PlayStation did clarify, though, that is another kind of odd point for it, is the fact that while it does support remote playing a PS5, it will not be supporting the upcoming cloud streaming options that PlayStation is offering. Previously, PlayStation announced that they were going to be offering cloud streaming as part of PlayStation Plus higher tiers so that you could stream play certain specific PS5 games over cloud, and that is not something that the Portal is going to be capable of. It is meant strictly for remote playing your PS5, which seems like a really missed opportunity. I'm sure there's some kind of behind-the-scenes logic as far as how, to get the best, lowest latency experience, it needs to be this local shared Wi-Fi remote play a system situation, but it just seems like a really odd door to close, because there could be that argument for, hey, pick up this $200 handheld, sign up for PlayStation Plus, and you can cloud play all these awesome looking PS5 games right on a little handheld as long as you're connected to the Wi-Fi. And that's not an option. It is effectively being pitched purely as an add-on for people who already own a PS5. There is no other reason to get it. The more we learn of the Portal, the more just overall conflicted I've been feeling about it. Look, if you've seen me talk about this thing before, like when it was initially officially revealed, I've definitely had a bit of a sore spot with the system from the get-go because I've wanted PlayStation to revisit the handheld market and do something like another PSP or PS Vita, and this is obviously not that because it doesn't play things locally at all. It is purely a remote play device. But even with that sore spot out of the way, I absolutely do see use cases where, yeah, especially at $200, I could make use of this as a great handheld to have around the house and use when I don't want to be on a TV setup for whatever reason. But it just seems like there are so many additional restrictions, limitations that make this such a super specific device where they really want the use cases to be narrowed down to these particular fields that I'm just not really sure how well this is going to go over for a lot of people. I mean, to be perfectly honest, look, I'm going to pick it up because I'm going to review it and because I want to check it out. And having it on hand as a result, yeah, I can absolutely see myself using it and taking advantage of it. But if I wasn't doing this, knowing what we know now, would I throw down $200 to get a device like this that is basically a fancier version of something that I could accomplish by just using my DualSense controller with a cheap phone clip and my phone? It seems like a really tough pitch to me. Oh, one other thing that we don't have hard information on just yet is the battery life for this. The only place I've seen report on this at all is CNET, and according to them, PlayStation claimed the goal for the Portal was to target similar battery life to the DualSense, which I've seen a few people dunk on right away if that doesn't being the fact, because the DualSense battery has always been something called out as being a weakness for PS5. But that's also for a controller, not for a full-blown handheld system. One that's remote playing, sure, but actually having a battery life that long puts it above things like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. Would I like more battery life? Yes, absolutely. But if it hits that same kind of level, and it's also something I could just plug into a wall if I'm really worried about it, I don't think that that's actually that bad of a battery life for something like this. Just my 2 cents. Now, as I mentioned, there are also the 2 headsets that were revealed and given more details along with this, which are the PlayStation Pulse Elite and the PlayStation Explorer. The Pulse Elite are a newer version of their Pulse headset for the PS5 that are $50 more. It's $150 instead of $100, but it's offering that PlayStation Link technology that should be offering low latency, lossless audio. It can connect directly to the PlayStation Portal. In the case of the PS5, you do have to make use of a USB adapter that it'll come with as well. One interesting kind of theory to go along with this is the fact that since the Portal is shipping with PlayStation Link built in, there's been plenty of rumors of PlayStation possibly releasing a Slimline model later this year, or, well, not really a Slim, but just a PlayStation 5 revision, in which case it's very possible that a new version of the PS5 could come with Link built in as well. Also worth noting, this Pulse Elite would ship with a charge hanger, so considering you're getting a charge hanger base along with these additional features and functions, along with some new stuff like noise cancellation, sounds like it could be worth the $50 difference between that and the regular Pulse. The Explorer, on the other hand, are offering a lot of these similar features but are in earbuds. They are meant for more portability and style, and as a result are also more expensive at $200, the same price as the handheld. With all these devices, it seems like PlayStation is really trying to take a hard lean into building up a hardware ecosystem more than they've had in the past. There's always been stuff like getting controllers and headsets for your system, but now with having a tied-in handheld that requires it to be used as remote rather than its own standalone device, as well as headsets offering a new proprietary connection that will only be supported on their new handheld, and then later systems will add it in eventually, it seems like PlayStation really wants to get people to focus on buying into their ecosystem and just having their hardware moving forward, which is certainly a move. It's not that surprising a thing, to be honest, and we've seen other brands do things similar. I mean, if you're at all in the Apple ecosystem, you know exactly how this kind of feels and works, and it kind of seems like PlayStation is trying to go in that direction a little bit more with all this new stuff they're beginning to drop. And so it seems like a lot of these devices, when used together, is going to allow for some really cool experiences, and we'll be able to execute on the very specific uses they want them to have. I just wonder if it's perhaps maybe a bit too limiting for some of them, especially in the case of the Portal. So that's just my 2 cents on everything we've learned about these systems today. I am planning to definitely cover these in the future, especially the Portal, so if you don't want to miss out on the content, make sure to subscribe as well as hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know, and I will see you guys later.